Back with our hockey analysts, Craig Button and Mike Johnson. Guys, Winnipeg and Vancouver each making big moves to acquire centers for first-round picks last week. The Oilers still have their first-rounder. They've won 16 straight games going into Tuesday. Mike, is there a move you'd like to see Kenny Holland make along the lines of the one that the Canucks and Jets did?
Sure. I mean, you don't want to mess with a good thing, though, Jay, right? You have to respect how well that team is playing, how much chemistry has been developed with this long winning streak, how much they believe in each other. You don't want to disrupt that. But I still think, I know they got Corey Perry basically for the price of nothing because they just added him middle of the season, but even another upgrade on a forward front would be something that the Oilers should consider. They don't have a ton of depth in their bottom six still, even though it's gotten better. And I think that would be a place that where it doesn't cost too much. You could get an upgrade. You get a proven player that could help in a couple different roles there. And Craig, to me, I know everyone talks about defense, but defensively, they've been spectacular on an all block. I would rather see them go get a depth forward. Won't cost too much. Seems very feasible to do.
I'm exactly in the same place, Mike. You look at how well they play offensively, defensively, now 18 goals in their last 14 games under Chris Knobloch. They've been fantastic. And certainly when you start to get into the playoffs and you're trying to get into that role with your four lines and try to wear down an opponent, Bruce Cassidy said that they beat Edmonton last year with their third and fourth lines. A stronger bottom six for the Edmonton Oilers will give them a better chance. And I think the opportunities are there. Ken Holland can look in those areas, and I don't think the price will be significant, but I think that it could be really helpful to the Oilers' chances come playoff time.
As for the Flames, they trade Lindholm. It seems like they're going to be sellers at the deadline. But, Craig, when it comes to Jake Markstrom, and I know you've been iffy on the possibility of this trade in the past, but if Craig Conroy was to decide to trade Jake Markstrom, what kind of return could the Flames expect?
Yeah, I'm just saying that as a manager, I wouldn't want to trade Jacob Markstrom, but it might be out of the manager's hands. I mean, when you start to look at Zadorov being traded in the fall and now Lindholm, they're sellers. There's no question they're sellers. And does Jacob Markstrom want to be part of that? I'm not going to speak for him. But what I would say is if there is a market for Jacob Markstrom, I would think it would be pretty high. You know, you're trying to look at what teams could really benefit from a goaltender of Jacob Markstrom's stature. And you're not just looking at this year. You're looking at this year in the playoffs, and you're looking at 2 more years on his contract. $6 million is reasonable for that style of goaltender when he's playing at his best, and he's been playing excellent this year. So I think the return for Jacob Markstrom could be really significant. If you look what he got for Lindholm, I think it could be very similar to that type of a return. A prospect, a player off their team, and certainly a first-round draft pick for Jacob Markstrom. And there's any number of places you could look. The place that I continue to look at is the New Jersey Devils. I think for their team where they're at, they would benefit greatly from Jacob Markstrom, and they have a lot of good young prospects, and that's a place that I think that Craig Conroy could look to get that nice return.
Ding, ding, ding. That is the answer. New Jersey, if he's going east. You want to know what you can get? Start scouring New Jersey's top prospects. Start looking at where their draft picks are. And that is the kind of place that has the assets, the cap space, and the prospects to make a move. And maybe a wild card, Craig, you didn't mention. How about L.A.? They've changed their coach. I think L.A. with a bona fide goaltender. You saw how good Korpisalo was last year? Think about Markstrom, who's better than Korpisalo in L.A. with that system, that defense, the way it can play. They turn L.A. right away into a threat in the very deep West. So I think, yeah, first-round pick, top prospect, with the term there and a top-flight goaltender. There are teams out there that need him, can afford him, and will pay that price for him. I would be, Craig Conroy, if I'm Craig Conroy, very gently approaching Markstrom with some of these ideas.
You mentioned Korpisalo. Let's check in on his new team, the Ottawa Senators. They're 6-2-2 in their last 10, but they are still 14 points out of a playoff spot. So probably sellers. Jake Chychrun, we've been hearing his name on our trade bait board, among others. Mike, if you're Steve Staios and you're Dave Poulin, our old buddy, what are you actually hoping to accomplish over the next few weeks?
Well, I still think they're trying to grow, and they're trying to establish an identity of the way they play for the players that will be returning. Now, you have to remember, like, if those guys are not going to return, whether it's Jacob Chychrun not on a sign extension or if he's expressed some of that or you have pending UFAs, they still are going to build up assets. If the players are not going to be around next year, year after that, then you should be looking to trade them. And whether it's getting good young players, whether it's getting quality pros that they have alluded to, or whether it's getting draft picks. If they're not going to be part of the program, then move along while also maintaining the quality and attention to detail that they've just started to figure out over the last 10 days, Craig. But I don't think they can be idle. I think they have to be busy, shed themselves with players who will not be returning, and if that means a guy like Chychrun, who, if he doesn't want to come back, then maybe that's him, while also having enough good players there to continue to improve this year. It might not be the easiest balancing act to do, but I don't think you can just play this out because they're playing well and bank points. You still got to get busy.
6-2-2 in their last 10 really gives Steve Staios, Dave Poulin, and the management group a real opportunity to see your team functioning the way you expect it to, and seeing players playing close to their potential and the team playing to its abilities. So, you know, you're going to move Tarasenko, you're going to move Kubalik if you can. Certainly, Chychrun has to be on the table if you can't sign him long term, or you think that the return could be really significant. So I think there's two phases here for Steve Staios. I think the first phase is leading into the trade deadline. Is there something really that he could do with a significant player? If there isn't, then you move to that next group of Tarasenko, Kubalik, and then carry on from there. But you're setting the table for the offseason when there's a lot more teams interested in your players. They have a lot more flexibility, and then you can open up the marketplace to really consider something more significant. I think those are the two phases for the Ottawa Senators.
5 of the 7 Canadian teams will be in action Tuesday. Jets and Habs games will be right here on TSN. Craig and Mike, you guys were great.